iPhone 13 Pro, 2 years later, honest review. Now, with the upcoming iPhone 15 Pro, this phone might be one you consider getting either used for a cheaper price point or consider upgrading. So I want to give you my 2 years later. It's not officially 2 years, for about a month, but I'm not going to have time to do that when the 15 Pros are in house. So I want to give you my final thoughts on this after 2 years. I probably will cover this again on the official iOS 17 update. But in terms of where it stands right now, we have a 6.1 inch OLED display, 120 Hz ProMotion, triple 12 megapixel rear camera, 4K 60, 6 gigs of RAM, which is rumored to come in the iPhone 15 Pro as well. This device also does come with an Apple A15 Bionic, same as in the iPhone 14 and 14 Plus, and a 3095 milliamp hour battery. Now, this phone was released on September 14, 2021, available on September 24th. So we definitely only have about a month till this is 2 years old, and it kind of doesn't feel old at all. Let's begin with the body. Apple's still employing stainless steel on the 14 Pro, and this phone just kind of feels exactly like the latest phone. It's still kind of chunky though. I do think we might see titanium on the upcoming model. So if you've been wanting a lighter version of the Pro, you'll definitely want to wait. But if you have been eyeing this phone for a while, the prices should be coming down on the stainless steel Sierra Blue iPhone 13 Pro. So if you've been eyeing it, this is going to be a great deal as the new ones come out and this does become cheaper. Now, this one is also quite durable, and with the IP68 dust and water resistance, I found this phone to be one that, as long as I have a case on it, I could kind of just throw it around and stuff like that. I don't feel too concerned about it. It's an incredibly durable machine right here in your pocket. I also quite like the size of it. The 6.1 inch is pretty comfortable. I don't find it quite as comfortable as a 5.8 inch, but reaching across this device has been quite easy. Hasn't been too hard, and I do prefer this notch to the dynamic island, which is kind of, a little bit more distracting. I'm not saying I prefer it as a feature set, but in terms of a distraction thing, it's definitely a little bit more distracting, I would say. 2 years later, when it comes to the display, if I'm being totally honest with you, there is nothing wrong with it. There's nothing different really about it than anything that's on the market right now that's brand new. So the iPhone 13 Pro is essentially like not even old. It's just old by a number, the date it came out. It's really not old at all in terms of the actual hardware. And while it still retains the same natural colors we've been used to with iPhones, it had the ProMotion, which was a big leap for iPhone. So if you still have this phone, I'd say another 2, 3, maybe even 4 years if you want to keep it, for sure. It's still going to be really smooth. I don't see Apple going to no 144 hertz or nothing like that. Those are gaming type phones, and I just don't see that happening. So it's not really going to be necessary. I just think they're going to keep it at 120 hertz for like a good 5 years or so, until maybe a new technology comes out where they're just forced, so they have to upgrade the refresh. But I don't see that happening for a very long time. So display wise, in terms of the smooth factor, it's at the very top. Now, does the notch bother me? Not really when you're watching a video or photo and it's not kind of in the way, but if it's in the way a little bit, it does cut into content a little bit. And I think eventually this will be gone. Even the dynamic island will be gone and we'll have an all screen phone. But overall, I got to say the screen is a nice width, 19:9 aspect ratio. So it's pretty darn good. It's wide enough, 460 ppi density. So it's super sharp as well. This is just a really, really good panel that gets plenty bright. Outdoors in sunlight, it can be a struggle compared to a 14 Pro, but it's still pretty legible. I mean, you have to be in the worst sunlight for this to even be something you might need to peek at, but that's not really a problem either because it hits 1200 in its peak. So I do think it's a very bright, very great display that really hasn't aged whatsoever, even though we're coming up to the iPhone 15 Pro models. Moving on to the software and the chip, we have the A15 and we have iOS 16.6 on board. We are going to be seeing an upgrade to 17. And if you want to see me cover that, let me know down below in the comments for the iPhone 13 Pro. But the software is kind of just a mature, polished, refined iOS we're used to. I can't really make tons of new content covering the software besides the fact that, the new little features that come. But I say little because Apple is kind of content with where they're at with their software. I feel like they just want to add little things here to experientially improve the experience. Basically, just make the user experience a little bit better here and there, a new feature here and there, but ones that are actually impactful, like the focus modes were a pretty impactful feature, I think, to the iOS experience, as was the widget support they brought. And I do think the widgets are very nice. App Library also arguably a very nice feature. I personally think it clutters up iOS a little bit, but some people really enjoy the App Library because it cleans up, their apps over here in folders. But I kind of liked when it was just grids and then you could just, put the apps wherever you wanted them. But some people may disagree. Overall, I would say iOS very smooth, very reliable. And yes, it does get buggy from time to time. That's why there's so many updates. But you have years of polished software and support to come. Now, the A15 Bionic chipset was one that has really performed so well that Apple even brought it to the iPhone 14 and 14 Plus. It's so fast, in fact, that, I was doing the A16 versus the A15 and I really didn't even see any differences. And I can honestly tell you that if I'm using the A15 and I'm using the A16, sometimes the A15 still launches applications faster. It's weird. I don't get it, all the time, how we can have a chip that's benchmarking faster, but the A15 still sometimes opens things quicker. It's kind of weird. So at this point, I just gotta tell you that it's so fast. In fact, no issues here whatsoever to worry about if you want to pick one of these up. And I would say if you're jumping to the iPhone 15 Pro models, this is not the reason I would jump. The A17 will be a 3 nanometer. It will be faster, but iOS 17 still doesn't even bring split screen. So I don't think that chip is going to make a major difference in your day-to-day use, even going to the 15 Pro. When it comes to the cameras, I got to tell you, I thought these were even better experience than the iPhone 14 Pro. When it comes to just reliable results, going into the macro mode, some people don't like how it switches, but you could turn that off. Honestly, I just found that with the 13 Pro, it was just super easy to just snap a photo. With its 12 megapixel array and setup and the different aperture from the 14 Pro, you didn't get as many blurring in the background, and some people found that they weren't focusing as good as they used to on the 13 Pro. So I think for a consumer standpoint, the 13 Pro was the better camera. I think for the pros, the 14 Pros were easily the better camera. For people who are going to use the action modes, of course, the 14 Pros. But there's no issues with this even now. And honestly, this camera blows away some modern brand new Android phones. So get out of town if you tell me that this camera is not good anymore, that it's getting blown away by a lot of other cameras, because it's just not. This is still pro level. It's still really high quality. And even though, the iPhone 14 Pro came out, the 15 Pro is going to be another upgrade. It's really becoming upgrades for pros. The 13 Pro and Pro Max are still great consumer grade cameras, even here in 2023, and will be next year and maybe even the year after that. This is another area of smartphones that is getting pretty mature. And yes, we can always see improvements, but much better than what we've seen 3-4 years ago. So the battery life on the iPhone 13 Pro is still pretty swell. It's pretty good. I would say that, the 14 Pro was probably one of the worst, in the Pro line for a few years, as was the 14 Pro Max, but 13 Pro was pretty darn nice. Even for a phone at 6.1 inches, this one easily made it through a full day, even if you were running a lot of applications, even if you were, using YouTube for a while, watching videos, GPS and camera 4K kills pretty much every phone. So I'm not going to go there with that one. But I will tell you, if you are looking for a really strong battery life phone, for a 6.1 inch flagship, this is still a pretty nice option. If you find one used at a great deal, you're going to get a pretty solid battery life experience for the iPhone 13 Pro. 2 years later, the audio quality, there's still phones launching today that don't have as good of audio quality as the 13 Pro. Lightning port is going to be dated here in just a month when the USB-C iPhone becomes available. But the Lightning port, many people still have Lightning. So when I say dated, I mean dated in the sense of the tech world. I'm not saying in the sense that you are going to be dated because you probably have Lightning cables and you're fine with that. But I'm saying in terms of the transfer speeds, in terms of, the universal capabilities of USB-C, that's definitely going to be left out on the 13 Pro going forward. But at the same time, you probably, again, have Lightning cables. And the 13 Pro had very good phone call quality as well, with really good 5G signal strength. Better than what I've seen on 11 Pro and even the 12 Pro. but much better than the XS Max, the 11 Pro, those older iPhones. This just destroyed those in the connectivity department. Bluetooth was fast as well, not the latest out there, but still very quick. I really like the Sierra Blue color option as well. It kind of reminds me of the blue they brought to the 14s. But yeah, there's not really much I want to harp on about anymore with this phone. Face ID has not changed at all. The phone is just probably peak iPhone with the 13 Pro. And 2 years later, I swear, if I was not a YouTube content creator, I would be probably using 13 Pro or Pro Max and just be totally very happy with that product. So 13 Pro, 2 years later, should you buy it? I would wait 1 month to see if the prices come down even further. But yes, in 2023, you should definitely still consider buying this phone. If you want to, save up a little more and pay $500-$600 more, of course, the 15 Pro is going to be better. You want to pay $300 more. The 14 Pro is a little bit better in certain areas, but it's not better in battery life. And the camera is not that much better, and it's also not that much more useful unless you're a pro user. Thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts on the 13 Pro. Are you picking one up? Do you plan on picking one up? And thank you very much for watching. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.